The first non-negotiable is light. Not just any light, natural sunlight within the first 30 to 60 minutes after waking. When light hits your eyes, particularly the specialized cells in the retina called melanopsin conjunction, p-guanine, retinal ganglion cells, it sends a direct signal to a part of the brain called the suprachiasmatic nucleus. This is your body's master clock. That signal resets your circadian rhythm and anchors your biological day. Now, what actually happens when you do this? Cortisol, a hormone often misunderstood, is meant to spike early in the day. This morning, cortisol pulse promotes wakefulness, mobilizes energy, and sets the timing for everything else. Your body temperature, your ability to focus, and even when you'll feel sleepy later that night. But if you miss this light exposure, that cortisol peak is delayed or blunted. The result is brain fog, disrupted sleep, and poor metabolic regulation. There's more. That same light exposure also impacts dopamine, a key neuromodulator of motivation, drive, and mood. Dopamine circuits in the brain, particularly those in the mesolimbic pathway, are light sensitive. Early light exposure helps regulate these pathways, which is critical for maintaining a baseline level of mental energy and resilience throughout the day. And this is not negotiable. Artificial indoor lighting, even bright LEDs, do not replicate the photon intensity of sunlight. You need to step outside. Even on cloudy days, the light is powerful enough. You don't need to stare at the sun. Just be outside. Eyes open, no sunglasses, for 5 to 10 minutes minimum. It's a simple, powerful intervention. Miss it, and the whole system falls out of sync. Hit it daily, and you are literally aligning your biology with the Earth's rotation for free. The second pillar is deliberate physical activity. Not just movement for movement's sake, but intense, intentional training that places a real demand on your body. Resistance training, zone 2 cardio, high-intensity intervals, any modality that challenges your system and pushes you beyond baseline capacity. Why? Because this kind of stress doesn't just build muscle or burn fat, it changes your brain. When you engage in intense physical activity, especially if it involves effort and coordination, your body releases a molecule called brain degree neurotrophic factor, or BDNF. Think of BDNF as fertilizer for your brain. It supports the survival and growth of neurons, strengthens synaptic connections, and enhances neuroplasticity, your brain's ability to adapt and rewire in response to experience. What's critical here is that BDNF isn't produced passively. You earn it through challenge. When you hit that threshold where effort becomes uncomfortable, your heart is pounding, breath quickens, muscles burn, that's when BDNF levels rise most dramatically, and the benefits are immediate and long-term. Improved memory, faster learning, better emotional regulation, and a higher threshold for cognitive stress. This is why people who train regularly don't just feel stronger, they think clearer. Their brains are more adaptable, more resilient under pressure, and what's especially important is that this effect stacks over time. Daily physical challenge signals to your nervous system, adapt or fall behind, and the nervous system responds. New connections are formed, old ones are pruned, your brain becomes more efficient and more capable. This isn't a metaphor, it's measurable. So if you want to become mentally tougher, emotionally more stable, and cognitively sharper, you don't need to search for a magic pill. You need to put your body under intelligent, controlled physical stress every single day. The third foundational element is nutrition, and more specifically, nutrient timing and composition that supports your brain's chemistry. Every time you eat, you're not just feeding your body, you're shaping your internal environment for focus, drive, and mental stamina. Start with protein. Consuming a protein-rich meal early in the day provides the amino acid building blocks, especially tyrosine, that your brain uses to synthesize key catecholamines like dopamine and norepinephrine. These are not just feel-good chemicals. They are the engines of motivation, goal-directed behavior, and sustained focus. You want these neuromodulators elevated in the first half of your day when you need to perform, plan, and execute. In contrast, meals high in refined sugar and simple carbohydrates cause rapid spikes in blood glucose, followed by sharp crashes. That roller coaster destabilizes insulin, depletes energy, and interferes with neurotransmitter regulation. You feel foggy, unmotivated, irritable, and that's not just psychological, it's chemical. Now, here's something often overlooked. The timing of your meals also impacts your alertness. A protein-dominant breakfast, moderate fat lunch, and carbohydrate shifted later in the day better match the natural progression of your circadian biology. Protein in the morning supports dopamine and focus. Carbs at night help increase serotonin and facilitate sleep onset. It's a rhythm, and when you eat in alignment with that rhythm, your neurochemical systems stay balanced throughout the day. So this isn't about fad diets or macros. This is about using food as neural instruction. Every bite you take either supports or disturbs your capacity to think, learn, and lead. When in doubt, prioritize protein, reduce sugar, and match your intake to your output. It's simple, but the results are profound. The fourth principle is focus training, and yes, it is training. Concentration is not something you're born with or without. It's a neural skill, and like strength or endurance, it's built through repeated, structured effort. Here's how it works. When you engage in timed, distraction-free deep work intervals, you're training a neurochemical system involving acetylcholine, a key modulator of attention. When released in the brain, particularly in the prefrontal cortex, acetylcholine sharpens your focus like a spotlight. It enhances signal-to-noise ratio, helping you lock in on a task while filtering out irrelevant input. But acetylcholine isn't released automatically. It requires deliberate effort and novelty. You have to give your brain a reason to focus. That's why these intervals need to be structured. Set a timer, start with 45 to 90 minutes, remove all external noise. Phone on airplane mode, tabs closed, notifications off. Choose a single cognitively demanding task. The first 10 to 15 minutes will be uncomfortable. That's your brain detoxing from the dopamine drip of constant digital stimulation. Push through that. On the other side is a state of increasing cognitive clarity. And here's the payoff. The more often you enter this state, the more efficient your brain becomes at accessing it. Neural circuits involved in sustained attention, especially in the anterior cingulate cortex and dorsolateral prefrontal cortex, undergo structural and functional changes. You literally rewire your brain to stay locked in longer with less effort. One deep work block a day is enough to shift your baseline. Over weeks, you'll find your capacity for concentration expands. You become harder to distract, not because you're forcing it, but because your neural architecture now favors depth over noise. In a world competing for your attention every second, that is a serious advantage. The fifth and often most underutilized daily tool is emotional and physiological self-regulation. And the fastest, most direct access point to this system is your breath. Your breathing is one of the only bodily functions that is both automatic and under your conscious control. That means it's a direct lever into the autonomic nervous system, specifically the balance between sympathetic arousal, alert, stressed, and parasympathetic, calm, rest, reset. If you don't train this balance daily, you leave your performance at the mercy of reactivity, not control. One of the most powerful tools you can use here is something called the physiological sigh. It's not a meditation and it doesn't take minutes, it takes seconds. 2 quick inhales through the nose, followed by 1 long, extended exhale through the mouth. The first inhale inflates the lungs partially. The second inhale recruits the alveoli, those tiny air sacs, deep in the lungs. This maximizes oxygen absorption. A long exhale then triggers the vagus nerve, which slows your heart rate and rapidly downshifts your nervous system. What's extraordinary is how fast this works. Just 1 or 2 cycles can bring measurable reductions in physiological arousal, reduced heart rate, lower blood pressure, decreased cortisol output. It's the most efficient way to interrupt a stress response in real time. No mantra, no gear, just breath. And like any tool, consistency matters. Use it in the moments that matter, before a high-stakes meeting, during emotional tension, post-workout to recover faster, or even before sleep to transition the system into deep rest mode. The more often you access this tool, the more your nervous system learns to shift state on demand, from chaos to clarity, from reactivity to control. You don't rise to your mood, you rise to the level of your nervous system. And this is how you train it. Let me know if you'd like the full speech compiled and formatted as one piece. There's one more layer that ties all of this together, and that's structure. Daily structure is not just about time management. It's a biological feedback loop. The quality of your outputs, your focus, your emotional control, your decision making, are all a direct reflection of your inputs. Light, movement, food, breath, work. The brain is a prediction machine. It wants to know what's coming next. When your days are structured, when you anchor your mornings with sunlight, when you train at a consistent time, eat with intention, and cycle through work and recovery with rhythm, you give your nervous system a sense of safety and predictability. That reduces cognitive load. You stop wasting energy deciding what to do and start channeling that energy into doing it well. And the loop works in both directions. Poor structure, waking up at different times, skipping meals, reacting instead of planning, leads to unstable neurochemical output. Dopamine becomes erratic, cortisol drifts, you start the next day already dysregulated. That's how people get trapped in cycles of burnout without realizing that it's not a lack of willpower, it's a lack of systems. On the other hand, when your inputs are consistent, the brain learns. This is how we operate. It adapts. Energy becomes more stable. Focus stretches longer. Stress feels more manageable. And you're not just surviving the day, you're directing it. Because in the end, high performance is not spontaneous. It's built through structure, repetition, and feedback. There's a misconception that high performers operate on raw talent or endless motivation, that somehow they're wired differently. But that's not how the brain or body works. High performance is not accidental, it's engineered. It's built from consistent daily systems that compound over time. Neuroplasticity, the brain's ability to change, is driven by repetition under focused attention. That means every time you follow through on one of these core practices, getting sunlight, moving your body, eating for clarity, locking into deep work, regulating your stress response, you're not just having a good day. You're reinforcing neural circuits that make those behaviors more automatic. The brain begins to default to them. What was once effort becomes baseline. This is the process. Repetition creates familiarity. Familiarity breeds efficiency. And that efficiency frees up cognitive bandwidth to go deeper, think clearer, execute faster. Your nervous system becomes calibrated for precision under pressure, not by force, but by frequency. The opposite is also true. Inconsistent habits confuse the system. You burn glucose and attention, deciding when to act, how to recover, what to eat. You leak energy through unpredictability. But with daily systems in place, you eliminate friction. you protect your focus, you build momentum. This is not about optimization for the sake of discipline. It's about reclaiming control. When your days are built around high leverage behaviors that support the nervous system, you don't have to chase performance. It becomes the default outcome of a well-run internal process. So when we talk about improving your life, your performance, your resilience, it's not about doing more. It's about doing the right things consistently. 5 fundamental actions: light, movement, nutrition, focus, breath. These aren't optional. They're biological levers, and they work whether you choose to use them or not. The question is, do you want your brain and body to operate by default or by design? Because the truth is, the highest performers, the most grounded leaders, the most adaptable minds, they're not born different. They're built daily through systems, through structure, through the quiet discipline of showing up for the fundamentals, even when it's not exciting. You don't need more motivation, you need better inputs. And when those are locked in, the outputs take care of themselves. This is how change happens. One decision, one habit, one day at a time, every day.